There are two ways to rob a bank. You can kick in the front door with a shotgun and a ski mask, or you can walk in the back door, shake the manager's hand, and rewrite the ledger. The first way gets you 10 years in federal prison. The second way, it gets you a library named after you. We are told that America is the land of the free, but for 150 years, the economy has been running on a script written by one family. They didn't just drill for oil, they drilled into the machinery of the government itself. They turned competition into a dirty word. They turned monopoly into a science. This isn't a history lesson. This is a blueprint. We are going to follow the paper trail, from the muddy oil fields of Cleveland to the secret accounts of the Cayman Islands. Warning, what you are about to see is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is a Ferrari. Wealth is the road the Ferrari drives on. Welcome to the ledger. Let's open the books. To understand the crime, you have to look at the scene. Cleveland, Ohio, 1870. The oil business was a slaughterhouse. It was the Wild West. There were 26 refineries in this one city, 26 men fighting for the same scraps. Prices bounced up and down like a yo-yo. Nobody was making any real money. Enter John D. Rockefeller. He's 31 years old. He looks like a Baptist preacher who just smelled something rotten. John hated chaos. He looked at these 26 competitors and he didn't see the free market. He saw waste. He decided he wasn't going to beat them, he was going to delete them. But how do you kill 25 competitors without firing a shot? You don't use a gun, you use a train. 1871. The South Improvement Company. It sounds like a charity for orphans. It was actually a conspiracy. Rockefeller went to the railroad kings, Vanderbilt, Scott, Gould, the men who owned the tracks. He made them an offer they couldn't refuse. I will give you all my shipping business, guaranteed volume, every day, full trains. But, John said, you have to give me a discount. Now, getting a discount isn't illegal, that's just business. But here's the knife in the back. It was called the drawback. Here is how the heist worked. Listen closely because this is genius. Let's say a competitor, let's call him Mr. Smith, wants to ship a barrel of oil to New York. The railroad charges Mr. Smith $2, but the railroad doesn't keep that $2. They take 50 cents of it, and they send it to Rockefeller. You heard me. Rockefeller got paid when his competitors shipped oil. It was a tax on his enemies, paid directly into his pocket. If Smith shipped oil, Rockefeller got richer. If Smith didn't ship oil, Smith went bankrupt. Heads I win, tails you lose. Armed with this secret weapon, John went to work. They call it the Cleveland Massacre. February 1872. Rockefeller puts on his hat and visits his rivals, one by one. He was polite, he was soft-spoken. He opened his ledger and showed them the math. Sell to me now, he said. Take Standard Oil stock, or compete with me and die. It wasn't a negotiation, it was a hostage situation. In less than 3 months, he bought 22 of the 26 refineries. He bought them for pennies on the dollar. He basically bought the whole industry for the price of scrap metal. By the time the public found out about the secret deal, it didn't matter. The war was over. John D. Rockefeller was now the king of oil. But being king wasn't enough. Now, he had to build the castle. By 1879, Rockefeller had a problem that most men would kill for. He had too much money. He controlled 90% of the oil in America. He was the emperor of Cleveland, but he was a prisoner of geography. Back then, the law was simple and stupid. A company born in Ohio had to stay in Ohio. It couldn't own a pipeline in Pennsylvania. It couldn't own a refinery in New York. The politicians thought they had him boxed in. They thought they could contain the monster with red tape. They forgot one thing. Rockefeller didn't just buy oil wells. He bought brains. Enter Samuel Dodd, the lawyer. He wasn't a gangster. He was worse. He was a legal mechanic. He looked at the law the way a safecracker looks at a dial. Dodd told Rockefeller, "John, you can't buy their companies. That's illegal. What if you didn't buy the company? What if you just bought the souls of the owners?" He invented a magic trick called the trust. Here's the con. It's a shell game. 37 different companies turn over their stock to a board of 9 trustees in New York. In exchange, Rockefeller gives them a trust certificate. It's not a stock. It has no voting rights. It's just a claim on profits, a receipt for silence. The original companies still looked independent. They kept their names. They kept their presidents. But they were zombies. The strings were being pulled from 400 miles away. The strings all led to one address, 26th Broadway, New York City. To the public, it was an office building. To the industry, it was the Vatican of oil. In room 1400, 9 men sat around a table. Rockefeller, his brother, Flagler, and the others. They didn't just control a company, they controlled the thermostat of the global economy. Every day at lunch, they met. They decided the price of oil in Hong Kong, in Berlin, in Boston. If a competitor tried to undercut them in Detroit, these 9 men would drop the price in Detroit to 0. They'd give the oil away for free. How could they afford to lose money in Detroit? Because they were charging double in Chicago. It was a predator that could bleed in one limb to strengthen another. It was unkillable. Samuel Dodd didn't just write a contract. He wrote the operating system for modern monopoly. But there was a flaw in the plan. They got too big. They got too loud. And the government was about to wake up. Every Goliath needs a David, but Rockefeller didn't get hit by a rock. He got hit by a monthly subscription magazine. Her name was Ida Tarbell. To John D., she was a nuisance. "Miss Tarbell," he called her. But Ida had a secret. She was a survivor. Her father was one of the men Rockefeller crushed back in Cleveland. She didn't write an article. She performed an autopsy. She tracked down the rebates, the spies, the secret ledgers. She published The History of the Standard Oil Company. It was a sensation. People read it like a murder mystery, because it was one. The outcry was so loud it woke up the White House. Teddy Roosevelt, the trust buster, had to act. The case went to the Supreme Court. Standard Oil Company of New Jersey versus United States. Rockefeller was called to the stand. He was an old man now. No hair, a wig. He looked like a wax doll. They asked him about the massacre. He said,
"I don't recall."
They asked about the rebates. "I don't recall." But the paper trail didn't have amnesia. May 15th, 1911. The verdict, guilty. Standard Oil was declared an illegal monopoly. The punishment, death by division. The company had to be broken into 34 separate pieces. Ida Tarbell won. The government won. Justice was served. Or was it? Here comes the punchline. The biggest joke in financial history. Rockefeller owned 25% of Standard Oil. When they broke it up, he didn't lose his shares. He just got new ones. He got stock in Standard of New Jersey, Exxon, Standard of New York, Mobil, Standard of California, Chevron. And here's the thing about monopolies. They suppress the stock price. When the companies were set free, they started to compete. They became efficient. The market realized these 34 companies were worth more apart than they were together. The value of his stock tripled. The breakup that was supposed to destroy him made him the richest man the world has ever seen. At his peak, he was worth 2% of the entire US economy. In today's money, that's $400 billion. If compared to today, Rockefeller would be the second richest, right after Elon Musk. Ida Tarbell slayed the dragon, but when she cut it open, it just bled gold. The government learned a hard lesson that day. You can break a company, but you cannot break a fortune. The old man John D. dealt in black gold. It was messy, it smelled. It required thousands of sweaty men to dig it out of the ground. The third generation realized something profound. Why dirty your hands with the commodity when you can just own the transaction? Enter David Rockefeller, the grandson. He didn't want to run an oil company. He wanted to run the switchboard of capitalism. He took over Chase Manhattan Bank. David was the first global banker. He treated the world like a risk board. While the President of the United States had to ask Congress for permission to travel, David just fueled up the jet. He met with everyone: the Shah of Iran, Khrushchev in Russia, Zhou Enlai in China. Critics called him the Shadow Secretary of State. They weren't wrong. He wasn't there to talk about peace. He was there to sell the most addictive product in history: debt. Before David, banks lent money to companies. If a company went bust, you lost your money. That's risky. David had a better idea: sovereign debt, lending to countries. Why? Because companies go bankrupt. Countries don't go bankrupt. If a dictator can't pay you back, you don't foreclose. You just take his copper mines. You take his oil. You dictate his foreign policy. It was the ultimate leverage. Chase Manhattan wasn't just a bank anymore. It was an empire without borders. Of course, this game is dangerous. In the 1970s, the third world couldn't pay. The debt crisis. The system almost collapsed. But remember rule number one of the Rockefeller playbook: privatize the gains, socialize the losses. David called his friends in Washington. The IMF stepped in. The World Bank stepped in. The US taxpayer bailed out the countries, so the countries could pay back Chase Manhattan. It was a magic trick. The bank got paid, the dictator stayed in power, and the taxpayer got the bill. David Rockefeller died at 101 years old. He had 7 heart transplants. He joked that he wanted a new heart for every billion he made. He didn't just inherit a fortune, he globalized it. He turned the family money into the circulatory system of the world. But money this big has a problem. You can't spend it. You have to hide it. And that brings us to the greatest magic trick of all: how to make money disappear. There is an old saying in America: shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The grandpa makes it. The son spends it. The grandson blows the rest on bad investments and fast cars. It is the law of nature. Wealth decays. The Vanderbilts, gone. The Astors, diluted. But the Rockefellers, they are on generation 7. They have over 200 heirs, and they are still richer than entire nations. How? Did they defeat the laws of economics? No, they defeated the laws of time. They created a financial bunker called the irrevocable trust. Here is how it works. Listen, because this is how the 0.1% stay the 0.1%. Junior takes his billions and puts them into the trust. He signs a piece of paper that says, "I don't own this anymore. The trust owns it." Why would he do that? Because if he doesn't own it, the IRS can't tax it when he dies. The money sits in the box, invested, growing, compounding, tax-free, forever. But what about the kids? Do they get the cash? No, they get an allowance. A committee of lawyers decides if you get money. Want to buy a house? Ask the committee. Want to start a business? Ask the committee. It protects the money from the heirs. If a Rockefeller goes crazy, gets sued, or gets divorced, the money is safe.
I find in favor of the defendant.
It's a golden handcuffs arrangement. You are rich, but you are on a leash. To manage this machine, they built Rockefeller Capital Management. It's basically a private bank just for the family. They don't just pick stocks. They manage lives. They handle the taxes, the philanthropy, the political donations. It is a corporation where the product is legacy. Nelson Rockefeller, who became vice president, said it best. The secret to success is to own nothing, but control everything. On paper, a Rockefeller might not be a billionaire. The trust is the billionaire. They don't appear on the Forbes list. They are ghosts. But try to build a skyscraper in New York without their permission. Try to run for governor without their blessing. They traded fame for power, and they got the better end of the deal. They have secured the money for eternity, but money is just fuel. Where is the car going? That brings us to the final chapter, the end game. In 2024, we measure power by noise. Who has the most followers? Who is trending? Who is screaming on Twitter? But real power, real, dynastic, terrifying power, is silent. The Rockefellers don't have a YouTube channel. They don't do podcasts. They don't need to. Why scream when you own the microphone? They realized that owning banks was good, but owning the conversation was better. They helped build the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. These aren't secret societies. You can look them up on Wikipedia, but try getting a seat at the table. This is where the script for the future is written. Trade deals, foreign policy, climate accords. The family doesn't run for office. They staff the office. They provide the experts, the advisors. Presidents come and go every 4 years like seasonal workers. The advisors stay forever. Today, the Rockefeller family isn't really a family. It's a decentralized algorithm. It's a network of nonprofits, shell companies, trusts, and foundations. If you buy gas, you pay them. If you go to a hospital, you use their research. If you visit a museum, you walk through their halls. They didn't disappear, they just became the atmosphere. So what is the lesson of the paper trail? It's that the game is rigged, but it's not rigged by luck. It's rigged by design. John D. Rockefeller taught us that competition is a sin, that control is a virtue, and that if you write the rules, you never lose. We are all living in the world he built. We are just renting space in his ledger, and the rent is due. Most people watch the news and think they know what's happening. You know better. You know that the real story is hidden in the fine print. This channel isn't for the tourists, it's for the insiders. If you want to understand how the machine really works, if you want to follow the money into the dark, subscribe. It's the only way to get the briefing. Like this video to leave a paper trail. I'm opening the next ledger soon. You don't want to miss what's inside. Class dismissed.